All right. Hey, hello. How's it going? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is that you are choosing to watch this series of videos. So, if you're watching this for the environmental science class, welcome to our first kind of round of material and round of videos that I have created for you. So that's basically this is how it's going to work, right? So I will kind of pick and choose little sections to focus on to make videos of, but you're still responsible for reading the entire module in the book for that week. So it's not like you can just rely solely on the videos to get your content for the week, but you do also have to do a bit of the reading. This may change or kind of shift throughout the semester. Some modules I may concentrate a lot on what the book is doing and go from there, or the videos will be not even too super related to the content of the book. It'll just kind of sprinkle in kind of what's going on there. So what I would like for you to do for this kind of first week is watch the videos actively and take notes along the way. Having a Google Doc or even a notebook to write down your answers or your notes would be fantastic. However you decide to go about consuming this information is entirely up to you. There's really no right or wrong answer. You're just going to find out what works for you, okay? So let's get on into it. And of course, all of the slides will be available for you as well. So welcome to that. So this is our first week, right? So we're going to hang out over here in week 1. This will be covering module 1.1, which your book covers environmental literacy and sustainability initially. But before we can really jump into talking about literacy and sustainability, which literacy will actually be covered more so in the book material rather than in the videos, we first got to talk about what the heck is this thing called environmental science, right? So your book gives the definition. That's what's the first bullet point here. The definition of environmental science is an interdisciplinary field of research that draws on natural and social sciences and the humanities in order to understand the natural world and our relationship to it. So we really need to draw knowledge from several academic disciplines. That's what interdisciplinary means. So you may have heard of this little term before, right? Of interdisciplinary. Maybe you haven't. So let's break down this word. A discipline would be like a section or like a type of field, like any of the ologies, right? Like meteorology, oceanography, geology. That's the study of weather, ocean, and rocks, respectively. So that's a particular discipline. Maybe you are in communications or accounting or business management or childcare. Whatever your discipline is, that's what that means, right? And then this inter part, inter simply means multiple of. So interdisciplinary simply means multiple disciplines working together to figure out what the heck is going on. Especially in this case when we're talking about the environment. So there's lots of different avenues that we can dive into with environmental science in order to understand the world around us. And your book kind of draws into this idea, and this is an image actually from your book, showcasing the interdisciplinary part of this. So things like natural sciences. So in this particular community, you would have to know what the climate is like, what plants and animals can live there, which crops or animals can be raised there. A thing that you can also think about to kind of relate this back to is here in California, like coastal California can have redwoods. It has an environment and a climate that is a-okay and super rockin' for redwoods, right? But if you go into the Central Valley of California, you're not going to find that the climate is very conducive or great for redwoods to grow, live, thrive, and survive. Does that make sense, right? So that's just like identifying a different sort of climate. So natural sciences could be things, like I said before, meteorology, oceanography, geology, horticulture, things like that, a natural science. Whereas social sciences would go into things like, how have indigenous peoples lived here? What sort of environmental policies would best fit this culture and this place? Will residents accept these changes to their lifestyle that might benefit the environment, and energy sources that are most cost effective? So like there's a lot of talk about solar panels, and like solar as an alternative energy to, say, coal or oil. Is that something that you can put up here, like right on coastal California? Yeah, one could argue maybe not, right? Like if you're living in the outer sunset of San Francisco, you don't really see as much sunlight. But if you're in the Central Valley of California, again, you have a lot of light a lot of the time. Just kind of spitballing some examples here to try to relate it to something you may observe in your day-to-day life. And then, of course, arts and humanities. I feel like people kind of like poo-poo at arts and humanities, but it's such a huge part of our society and as humans as a whole, hence the name humanities. But, how could things like religion and tradition influence choices? How can people express their love, fears, and hopes in their homeland through things like literature, theater, and music? Something very similar can be said here. Not going to get into politics, but those sorts of ideas can change from state to state, from region to region. Anyway, so like how can we involve all of these disciplines in order to help better our understanding, first of all, of the entire environment, but also how can we better learn about it as well? So really the overall idea, the point here isn't to scare you away from science and from environmental science in general. We don't need to know everything about everything. That's why we rely on other people who have this expertise to help guide us and our decisions that we're going to make later on down the line. Like again, I would consult a meteorologist about, oh hey, should I build a house right here, right along the coastline, if it's going to be raining all the time and maybe it's going to erode away into the ocean or something like that. Really, the point here is to recognize that we all play a role, no matter what your discipline is. So this is a GE level class, no matter what your discipline is or what your major is or what you think your major might be. Maybe you're undecided, and that is super duper cool. You'll figure it out. We all play a role in this arena, right? And we all also have something to bring to the table from our experiences, right? We all come from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different experiences, different lived lives, right? So I encourage you to bring those experiences to the table when we talk about stuff throughout the course of this semester. And don't feel like you're going to be judged or oh, they're going to think about me this way. Like, no. We're going to have an open community here, folks. Okay. So be open, be receptive, no judgment, or a judgment-free zone, that kind of thing. Okay. And I also want to mention here that the Earth is a very complex system. So trying to go into how we talk about environmental science in that interdisciplinary way. Our planet is also interdisciplinary as well, right? So there's many different systems around our planet that interact with each other in various ways, like the ocean or the hydrosphere, with the lithosphere, which is all the rocks, with the anthrosphere, which is all the humans, biosphere, which is everything living, right? We have all these very complex and intricate connections to these various spheres. So we're really learning how to manage all of those complexities. And what happens in one part of the world can very easily have an impact elsewhere, perhaps really far away. So going back to this idea of what is environmental science, right? So this was our initial definition. It's interdisciplinary, help us better understand the natural world and our relationship to it. So environmental science is about us, right? It's about us and what we can bring to the table. And of course, another definition, which a colleague of mine kind of prefers this definition, is that it's an interdisciplinary study of humans' relationships with other organisms and our non-living surroundings, right? So that can be buildings and building materials, anything within our anthrosphere and our our relationships to them. This isn't to be confused with the term for ecology. So ecology is the study of interrelationships among organisms and between organisms of their non-living environment. So a very similar definition, but not exactly the same Not exactly the same thing, but very, very similar, right? So my colleague has asked in her previous environmental science classes this question, why I study environmental science. So you can read through a lot of these ideas that other students have given before. And I encourage you to maybe pause the video, read through them, see what you got, see maybe even what you can come up with as well. It might be kind of interesting if it's kind of away from what's on this list currently. And I think it's really fascinating, right? It's really quite curious what some of us have been able to come up with. But if we were to pick out a couple of like themed ideas from this particular slide, we would probably find things along these lines, that there's both natural resource loss and pollution are routinely mentioned here. But several of the responses also noted that environmental science can make life better for us and for other organisms too, right? So we're not just trying to like put out all these like environmental policies and really restrict things on people just because we think it's for fun, but we're really just trying to make the world a better place, right? Not just for us, but for other organisms as well. And other statements also refer to wanting the resources for as long as possible, which brings us to this term sustainability, right? Sustainability. And we'll really dive into that term in the next video. But before we jump into it, or before you just click next on the next video, I encourage you to take a pause and think about what sustainability means. I feel like it's a term that's really thrown around a lot now. But I want you to try to think of in your own words, definition of what you think it means, and we will revisit that idea in the next video. So thanks so much for watching this one, and there should be at least 2 more videos for this particular module. So thank you so much.